Setting up the meeting. There we go. Hey, everybody. How's it going? We are about to record the Seller Roundtable podcast. So if you'd like to join us in Zoom, today's going to be fun. We're talking with my friend Tammie, and Tammie has a really cool story as a seller, but she's also figured out how to do some pretty cool things with KDP that I promise you haven't heard before. So definitely join us in the Zoom. You can go to sellerroundtable.com/live and you can join us right in the Zoom, just like Vlad is here joining us today. And we're gonna record this podcast. Oh, Carmel's on her way in too. Let me let her in. Okay. So I'm excited to talk to you today, Tammie, and I know our audience is going to love hearing from you. So without further ado, I'm going to hit this record button and let's get the show on the road, shall we?
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Sweet.
Hey, everybody, that is here.
And you guys, Andy is not with us today. It makes me sad, but it's okay. All right, let me hit the record button. Hey, everybody, what's up? This is episode 135. I can't believe how many episodes we've had of the Seller Roundtable. And I'm Amy Weiss, and my co-host, Andy Arnott, is not here today, but that's okay, because we're going to go on without him, even though it's snowing in Idaho right now. He says he's embracing it. Last week, he covered for me while I was in Colorado, where our guest Tammie is from.
Yeah.
Enjoying the snow, enjoying the clean, clear mountain air and the cold. So, you know, I'm back in the warmth of San Antonio now, and I'm excited to be here. So, Tammie, it's so good to have you. And you guys, you're going to learn so much today from Tammie, because she has a really cool story as a seller, but she's also learned to do things with Kindle Direct Publishing, with publishing books on Amazon that I promise, like I said in the live stream earlier, I promise you haven't learned yet. So, you know, because she kind of like figured all this stuff out on her own. So yeah, it's really cool what she does, and we're going to learn from her today. And Tammie, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and your background, as much or as little as you want to tell us. Sometimes we ask for blood samples, you know, however you want to do
just that kind of stuff, right? Amy, your curlers. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Amy. I appreciate everybody joining us and being here with us. And yeah, like she said, my name is Tammie, and I've actually been an entrepreneur since about 30 years. So once I was 5, I figured, no, but I had a brick and mortar business for many, many years. And as our lives were starting, my husband and I starting to transition out of the parents, or our daughters graduating from college, and we lived in California. I grew up in Sonoma, California, which is by Napa Valley. So I grew up in a very beautiful area, but we decided to move to another beautiful area and moved to Colorado, where Amy was just visiting, which it was just awesome to see everything that you were doing up here and great on Facebook. But so I had run a brick and mortar for 30 years. My daughter was graduating from college, and we decided to move to Colorado. But before that, so my brick and mortar business was going to be done. It was a hair salon. I owned a salon for many, many years, and did that. And it was fantastic. Loved every minute. But moving meant I was leaving my business, so it could not follow me with my clientele. So in 2014, we got it. My husband and I decided to check into doing retail arbitrage, flipping the products on Amazon. But, you know, kind of, I think a lot of people start out that way, is just the retail arbitrage, I would say. So we got into that. And so that would carry us out here to Colorado. And my husband still had his corporate job, so we were able to transition him out of that. And about a year into it, after we moved to Colorado. So I have been in KDP or into Amazon selling for quite a while. So 2014, we did that. And I liked it and everything, but I started, I had that creative feel that I really wanted to try something. And my husband said, you should get into the KDP. And it was merch and KDP. which came out, I think, before KDP. But anyway, so I just, I'll dabble in that a little bit when, with my Amazon business, and then I'll do the KDP. And I found that I really, really enjoyed it. And so I started creating books and putting up on Amazon and thinking they were just gonna magically sell.
Anybody who's ever done KDP is like, you get all excited about creating a book and you're like, okay, I'm going to create this, but I have a couple of books here that I've created. I've got my little books over here.
Yeah. The little journals, and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then you realize that the listing capabilities on KDP are not the same as listing a product on Amazon. And then you realize that you pretty much are never going to get traffic unless you drum it up yourself.
Correct.
And then you realize that advertising is completely different for books than it is for anything else. So there's like this whole cycle and process to selling books on Amazon. And I think it's so cool that you figured out how to bundle books with your products, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, was that a big surprise for you when you started creating these books and you realized like, oh, this is not the same?
Yeah, it was definitely a shocker because, our Amazon business was doing well and we were flipping, doing all the stuff. And, and I put the books up thinking it was going to just happen. And it was like cricket, nothing was happening. I was like, and then I found one of my books sold, and I found it was my sister, of course. And I was like, oh, well, that was nice of her. But in the big picture, it's kind of like, well, I'm not gonna be paying the mortgage with these books. So taking all of that and my background being in business, I started kind of leaning towards more of branding booklets for businesses. And so I kind of went down that place and started creating these branded booklets. But then what will be great for you guys is branding these booklets for your products. And this is where I want to lead you guys with this, is because there was a way where I said I was branding for businesses, but then why not for Amazon sellers or other people who are selling on different platforms to create a branded booklet for their product. And so I started looking at that and how that would really look for people, and started asking questions about, branding booklets for businesses and using them and putting them in your product.
So let's back up and talk about how you discovered that just selling a book on Amazon was not easy. You had to drum up your own traffic. Correct. So how did you come up with this idea of making books for local businesses? Talk about like how you came up with that idea and what your first book was for a local business.
All right. So one of my first books, I started getting into health and nutrition. So I was at a lot of gyms and I was working with a lady who owned a nutrition company, started going to gyms for my personal self. And I started thinking about if I could sell these books to a business. So if I could brand these books to a business, so I started using gyms. Gyms were my first one, nutritionists, gyms, that kind of thing in my local area, and asked them the question, would you consider having a branded book for your business? And it happened to be this business here, Anytime Fitness, which is a franchise fitness company, because I was noticing and taking a look around as a business person, taking a look around, and everyone was writing things down. Because I know a lot of people think, oh, no one uses books anymore. It's all digital. But that wasn't the case. Everyone had some type of notebook, was tracking their, reps on how many weights they were lifting, all these things that they were tracking. So I asked the business owner, do you have anything from your company? And he said, no, he just had a piece of paper they print off, and, a new client would come in and they'd go through all the machines and check. And so when I asked him, what would you think of having your own branded booklet for your business? He was over the top. Like it was, he's like, how can you do it? And all of these things. So I said, yes, I can. And we sat down and mapped out a whole plan. And he has this great branded booklet for himself that is ordered off of Amazon and KDP. So that was my first business. that I started thinking about
Wow.
branded
And so
business.
you had already created a couple of books in KDP and
Yes.
on your own. So you'd already dabbled in it. So you knew how to do it. You knew the process. Then
Correct.
you go to Anytime Fitness because you're a member there and you're getting into health and fitness, and they give you this booklet of this manually printed thing. And
Yeah, it was
like,
just, papers, we get papers and just here,
you're
fill
like,
this out. I'm like,
this could be like more legit. Like, we help you make this more legit. And
exactly.
you at
So
that
that's kind of
time,
that. So I thought, well, we sat down, what would you like? And that's sort of how the KDP for B2B was sort of started, was basically in a gym and watching everybody track everything. And I thought, if I could create this branded booklet for them, it's under my KDP account. And then they get the business is buying the booklets from Amazon or what we'll call wholesale from Amazon, and they're driving traffic to the book. So I make a reoccurring income stream from them every time a book is published.
So that was your first way.
That was my first way.
Driving traffic to books is you had a client that needed, I did this with Amazon merch. So I found on Amazon merch, it's the same thing. Like you create a t-shirt, but there's 50 million other people who create the same t-shirt on the same day, right?
Right.
And you're like, okay, how am I supposed to sell this thing? So I started going out to like local sports teams and stuff like that needed t-shirts. And I'm like, hey, I can make this shirt for you. Actually, I did this with my daughters. So I can make this shirt for you. And you can just buy them on Amazon. They'll be ready within 72 hours. And, we can price them, however you want to price them. And I would give my minimum, right? So I'm making a little profit, right?
That's what we do with the books.
Yep. And then they would do it too. And what's cool about KDP and what's cool about Amazon merch is you can order either samples or you can just put it on Amazon and you set the price over the cost. So yeah, that was my way of driving traffic to my t-shirts.
It's the same principle as that. And then what's great is once you create the book, brand it, then the business owner is driving all the traffic. So you don't have to do the marketing anymore. You don't have to do, even the listing doesn't really even matter because it's not driving the traffic by either buying them themselves or their customers buying them. And we'll get into it more, but it's like QR codes work really well to drive the traffic right to the book from the business side. So you have to remember this is through the business side. So it's been a really great way of doing that. But then the other part of it is adding this into your product, because I know that's probably your audience is waiting to hear that part, because how it's exciting to know, how does it work for them?
Tell me a little bit about how you decided to start bundling, because this is actually kind of hard to figure out. I was unable to figure this out, how to actually bundle a book. And I know so many people are wanting to know how to do that. So if I create a book in KDP and I want to sell it alongside of my product, like bundled with my product, how do I do that? And how did you discover how to do that?
Well, I found out a few friends, a lot of friends do private label and also do what we call bundles, but we're just calling a bundle because you're adding a book to it. So this is one of the examples here. This is a coffee booklet, a tasting booklet. And so we branded this booklet for Elixir Coffee House. And you can see, we got our little, QR code on there. So they can go, the customer can go right to their stuff. And then, so let me back up before we get too far into it. But so how I decided that would work well is I found out that a lot of people were jumping on other people's listings. I would hear that rumble. Since being in the Amazon business, I hear that rumble. And it's like, well, I've got this great product, but it gets tanked because people are jumping on my listing. I think because Amazon, I were in it for a long time ago, it wasn't as hard, but as it kept moving forward, it kept tanking people's listings. And they were like, well, what do I do? How do I add something that's different? And sometimes people add promo cards and things like that. So I just kind of was, hearing that rumble out there. And the lady who has this book here, she has a whole course on bundling. And so we got to talking a lot about how to bundle this book. She's like, what do I do? And how can I add this to it? So basically you create a KDP booklet, and then you're going to have them sent wholesale to yourself, and then you're going to send them in with your product at the same time and bundle that together.
Okay, got it. So in order to do it, so there's no way to basically list that book on, you can list it separately on Amazon as well.
You could
and
make
you
money.
might
Yeah,
actually
you could
get
sell
people
this
buying a
separately.
refill.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But you would make it on KDP and you would order a sample, and then you would bundle that with your product. So if your stuff is in China, you might create that book and then just have, you could have samples sent to yourself, because most of our listeners are private label sellers or white label sellers. So they're going to, one of two ways. The first way would be create that book on KDP and have it printed, have the sample sent to your place, right? And then, or to your prep center, or to wherever they're going to bundle it with the product and send it in under one barcode, right? Or the other option would be to finish that book, and then you could actually work with your supplier in China to go to their printer and actually print the books and put it in the package with you right then and there. Because once you create it in KDP, you also have that ISBN number, everything else there. So you could also send it there for them to print. Am I right there?
Yeah, you could do something like that. You can get ISBN numbers. It's just, you can only use it with Amazon, or you can purchase ISBN numbers and have it sold other places or sent to other places. So there's a little bit of a wiggle room in those ways that depends on your audience and how their suppliers and how they're getting their supplies. But basically, yes, I think that is a perfect example, is they could have it created in China and then have it sent to their prep center, and have it bundled wherever they're doing that.
Like if their supplier prints it in China, then their supplier can bundle it right in with the box with their product. Yes. But going through this process to actually create it on KDP will be super helpful, because that way they kind of understand the templates and how it works, because any printer is going to need the same thing. So I had a client that created books and wanted to have them printed in China. And so she was able to go, I believe, on what was the other one besides KDP where you can get a free ISBN number? It's
in Ingram Spark.
Ingram Spark, yeah, I believe that's it. There's a few different ones.
There's a few different ones, yeah.
But free ISBN. So that's what she ended up doing, is just skipping the KDP route, and she went and got a free ISBN number, and then she went through the process on KDP, because you can learn how to actually format that book and set it in a template and understand what the popular sizes are for books and all of that. Right. And then once KDP, you guys, is free to join. And they provide free templates for all the different size books and everything. So you could literally create your book on Amazon, KDP on its own, get a free ISBN number, publish it for free. And then you could take that same, you could either take the ISBN number that's already been given to you for that same book and have it printed elsewhere and have them just put that barcode on it. Or once you go through the process and you learn it, if you want your supplier in China to find a printer and print it so that it's bundled right there in China, then what you do is go through that template process, create your book, right? Your template for the book. You're going to send that to your supplier, the template intact. They'll find a printer, get it printed off for you with the proper ISBN number on it, and it will just get listed right there with your product. So you'll have two different ways that you can do that, and either bundle it on your own and sell it separately on Amazon for free. It doesn't cost you anything except for your time, you know? And so let's talk about designing. Let's talk about like the actual process of creating a book, Tammie. So you have all these different books with these beautiful covers, and my first book cover was horrible, by the way. But
mine was too.
So let's talk about the process of actually creating a book. Like, what's your process kind of from start to finish? If you had to kind of dumb it down for us, what's the process that somebody needs to follow to create a book?
Well, first of all, I want to let everyone know I am not a graphic designer. So my books have gotten a bit better, but I'm still not to the level of a graphic designer. But you don't have to think of these books or covers or anything that are going to have to be that spectacular. It can be very, we use a lot of Canva. We use a lot of a Doodoo, which is a book creator. There's Bookbolt. There's a lot of different places you can use different places to create the books and then upload them into KDP. KDP also has their own graphics and some things you can use inside the platform, but it doesn't have a lot to offer. So a lot of us use other services that you can create a cover and an interior pages and different things like that. So my process is to basically use a Canva. You can use a free Canva if you don't want to pay for it, but the paid one gives you a little bit more, gives you a little more to use, like different ways to upload it and do different things. But you can use a free Canva and then upload it right into KDP after you've designed it in the Canva, and then go there. Now, if you're really good at graphics, you would definitely use InDesign, and people who are graphic artists, they use that. You can also go and have somebody create these for you. You don't have to, if this is something like, I don't know how to design a book, I don't have the time, because I know as a business owner, I don't want to learn one more thing. I just want it done for you. And, I have some of those services available as well. We can just create the book for you, get it done, and go from there. So and you can use, Fiverr sometimes if you just need a cover created. There's lots and lots of tools for you to use. So I don't want anybody to get stuck on book creation and layout. There's some really great ways to kind of use different tools, like I said, and create these branded booklets. And, basically you could just think of it as a very low content book, and the pages can repeat. Once you create one page, you just repeat it. So don't think that these have to be some type of, very intense books with all these, ideas. It's like very repeatable. I call this more of like a low to medium content. We call low content lines, like a line journal, maybe a prompt. This would be a sort of a medium content where there's a little bit more to it, but basically we just copy the pages and then we upload those same pages right to to KDP, and you create the cover back and front, and you're off and running. And
yeah, I also do mine 100% in Canva. It's very easy to do. And, like you said, if you're doing a low to medium content book, you can just hit the copy button. Once you design that page, you can hit the copy button. And then you can also design your covers in Canva.
Yes.
And they're really easy. They're pretty easy to do. You can literally just Google, on YouTube, there's lots of tutorials, but as you mentioned, Tammie, there's a lot of people that are out there that can help you. You can Fiverr, you can contact Tammie, anything.
I have ways to do that as well. I can help you in those, in the design as well, in different ways. And I've really streamlined a couple ways to do that in different courses that I have. I streamlined them so that you can just go from you don't want to be a book publisher, because that's a whole nother level. You just want to get a branded booklet for your product. I just streamline that in a course that I have that will just take you from A to B quickly, and you can get those books up and ready to go.
So another question for you is the size of the book. So I noticed that most of your books that you've created are a certain size. So can you tell me what size you usually use?
It's usually a book for something like a product would be a 6x9, a 6x9 book. And you can there's multiple sizes in KDP. It just depends on what I want you guys to think about when you're thinking about what kind of book, what is your product? What is the customer going to use that booklet for? This is a coffee tasting booklet. So if that's what you have, then you create a little tasting booklet, and you can find things on, Pinterest. I suggest just getting ideas. Don't take other people's stuff, because there's copyright infringements. So you have to be aware of copyright infringements. But you can go and get ideas on Pinterest, Google things like, what is coffee tasting? It's the basics, it's going to be, where did it, what's the date of the the coffee, where was it roasted or not roasted? Where did the beans come from? That's the basic concept of a tasting book. And it can be for chocolate. It could be for, any products that you're using. It can be a guide. It can be an informational. So first you need to think about what it is that you're selling and what is going to benefit your client, because you're adding value to your product by adding this booklet. So what's going to give that value to them, and so that's what I need you guys to think about is what is that for you? What is that going to be for you?
Let's just run through, I love this. Let's run through some ideas of what we could do with products. So if you have a fitness product, let's say you're selling a yoga mat, because there's not enough of those on Amazon, and there's still people getting into that, right? You could do a journal of the different yoga poses that person has learned, which would just be pretty much kind of like you were saying, you could actually look up existing journals that are out there and see what are the different elements and how can you add your vibe to it. Obviously not copy it, but add your vibe, make it a little different. You could also do a book of the various yoga poses, right? You could, the most popular yoga poses, you could do a book where you have a pose on each page and you're taking people through the sun salutation or, that kind of thing.
I'm just showing you a little bit here. Is we just use the machine. So it's the same idea. So if this was a pose here, then you could just put that in and what they would be tracking and different ways to use that. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was just kind of,
very
showing
good.
that, and then how much, people love to track, how much time did I spend in yoga? Did I do my meditation? Just a little checkbox. Did I meditate? Did I drink enough water? You could just do little water boxes and you can even just go online and look at, like you said, all the books. You can go to a local bookstore and there's yoga books everywhere. But you're absolutely correct. But before we go too far, the sizes, there's all different sizes. You can go from, an 8x11. This is my favorite size, is the 8x5 by 8x5. But you have to remember about weight too, because I know it costs you more when you're with your product. So think about, could you just put a 6x9 and 24 pages is the minimum. So 24 pages is all you need. And if you can't fill it with 24 pages, add a note page at the end and add, a few note pages in the back or something to complete that book. But I just wanted to catch up with you really quick on that, Amy, because I think that for your client or your audience, it's the weight you have to be careful with too. So you don't want to do 100 pages and have a weighted book or a bigger book. If it's not necessary, don't do a larger book. Do a smaller 6x9.
Yeah. And I mean, I think for a full picture book, and so this was my first book, and obviously people listening can't see the screen right now, so I'll talk about it. It was just a very simple, what I did is every day when I was working for the military, I would make my own books, because in the building I worked in, I couldn't bring my phone in or anything. So I would make my own notebooks, and I would write the same things in my notebooks every single day. So I was like, I'm tired of making my own notebooks. I'm going to make one on KDP. So I gave myself a challenge and I said, I'm going to do this in a weekend. I'm going to finish a book in a weekend. And I sure did. I created in Canva, just copied and kind of pasted the pages, right? Then I created the cover, uploaded the template to KDP, assigned the ISBN, which is automatically done as you're moving through the process on KDP, and published it, and it was for sale that week. So
it's amazing how fast that can
over the weekend to get it done. So there's no reason that you guys, if you're wondering about this and you're like, oh, it's just too far, I can't create a yoga book for my yoga mat. Create something. Give yourself a weekend to create something. It doesn't matter if it's ugly. Go through the process, and that way you can kind of learn what it is, and you can order yourself a sample, and then you can kind of see, oh, okay, this actually is pretty easy, right?
Yeah, and the prices of the books are very reasonable, and I've done a lot of research on different type of pricing. The best thing is, as we know, in the Amazon world, is the shipping. So they really take care of the shipping costs. And so when you go to printers, a lot of times if you have to ship the books out, sometimes that gets a little, they're shipping them to you, then you're shipping them back, and it's the price starts adding up. but just keep an eye on that. So that's another great thing with Amazon, with KDP. But like you're saying, all we're trying to do is come up with, it could be a line journal. It could be a notebook. What we want is you to have, no one can create this book, but this is your product. You're putting it in to your product and making a bundle out of it. It's adding value to your product. It's giving a customer, some way to see your brand. So there's brand recognition right there. And it could be lines inside. Don't get too caught up in, I have to create this whole thing for your client. It's just a way to add value. And they run around, $2.15. It depends how many pages you put in, but around $2.15. And then there's a little shipping costs and some other costs, but it's about $3.18 for each book. So adding that value there, and you could probably get, at least a $10 value, with perceived value for these books in your bundle, in your product.
Yeah.
And it helps with the keeping people off of your listing, because no one can duplicate this. And I get this question a lot from other people too, is like they use promo cards. And I think promo cards are great. I don't have any problem with that, but they tend to throw them out with all the packaging. They don't tend to throw these away. They don't tend to throw your little books away. It's something about a book and throwing away, but you're also giving them something that they can use. So it's not just a toss away. It's something they can use.
Even if you're just providing a notebook with your branding on it, with for me, I have cat products, right? I mean, I could provide a really cute notebook with a cute cat on the front, and people are going to keep that, and it's going to have my brand on the back, right? Mm-hmm. And so even though I'm not giving them a guide of how to do something, right? I'm just giving a cute notebook with a cute cover of a cat on the front, right? Maybe I could do like the most popular cat breeds, like a little cartoon on the cover, and it's just a gift from us. And, I could bundle that even with my private label unique product, and people will be like, wow, then they're going to keep it. They're going to put it on the shelf, or they're going to write in it. They'll use it for something. The kids will steal it if it's cute, right? So you really don't have anything to lose from that side. And I would love to come up with some other ideas. So like if you have a fitness product, obviously it's pretty easy to do a journal, but let's say like I just gave a cat product idea where you could just provide a really cute notebook. What about if you have a kitchen product? What if you're selling a French press coffee maker?
You could even create the book to so you have a French press. You could do the tasting book, obviously that would work well, or you could just say, give some instructions, and I'm sure your product has instructions anyway, but if you just create them in the book, maybe you have to clean the French press. How do you clean a French press? Like it could be something very simple like that. Maybe a checkoff list of when did you clean it last?
Oh, that's so good, because, every time I buy an appliance, a kitchen appliance, and it comes with a decent book, I keep it. I put it in my kitchen with my recipe books. And then when it comes time to maintain that product, or if I have problems with it for troubleshooting, whatever, then I pull it right out of the cupboard. And again, I have a way to contact the brand. You could also that could be your instructions, and you can have them sign up for your warranty from there. You could kind of combine your insert with this book, which would be very value added for them, because they're not only getting really nice instructions. I can't tell you how many brand owners that I've unboxed their products and they have no instructions. And when I ask them about it, I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? Or they have a high return rate. And the big thing is they're not paying attention to the customer experience when they get that product. And so just taking that extra time to provide some extra instructions, we do a booklet with our litter box cleaner. We do a booklet that says, welcome to the family. Here's some tips for using this. Reach out to us with any questions. We're here for you, all of that. And we actually do have people keep that booklet, find us on Facebook, reach out with questions, tag us, and
it's like that branding portion of it too is so good for you guys, because they're seeing, and not a lot of people use this technique. And so people get excited when they open a package and I get a book too. And it's, I like to call them booklets because they're small. That's just my fun little name for them. But it really does, you could do cookbooks, you could do a little recipe. You can't copy people's recipes, but you can actually create, how do you use the machine? You can add a QR code right to a video of how to use the particular machine you're selling or product you have. So you can use these branded booklets in multiple ways. It's not just, giving, keeping people off your listing, but that is one of the big advantages, but it's also giving value. And people, how do you stand out? How do you stand out from the crowd if it's something that multiple people have? And, you'll see, I would definitely post a picture of what's in that box. And this is part of what's in that box. Oh, I get a booklet too. And that's great. I can track, who's cleaning the cat box or whatever you're doing, or who's feeding the cat, or it's a new kitten, or it's a new kitten. And now you have a little booklet. It's like, oh, my kitten did this, or the weight of the cat. Could be a veterinarian book. It doesn't have to all go right with your product as well, but it could be a veterinarian book. Just, my cat had shots. When did they have the shots? Just a check off list of those kind of things.
Something that adds value to the product and to the customer experience is really fun. And like I said, you could even just do a notebook with a really cute cat on the front, and that just comes, and your branding on the back, and that just comes with it.
Right.
You could do anything really and make it a lot of fun. So I love it, Tammie.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. Okay.
Thank you.
So let's talk about just the one question that we like to ask. So you're not doing this anymore, right? You're not creating books anymore. You're now teaching others how to do this, right?
Yes. Well, that kind of started out. I've been doing this. I still, I have a few clients and things that I, create. Just a therapist here with the journal. Here's my line journal. She sells this like hotcakes to her client, or she actually uses this as a gift for them a lot of times. But yes, I do still create books, but I have a lot of people have asked me, how do I do this? And that's when Amy and I started discussing this, is how do I do this? So I have put together something very special for you guys, but it's just basically, I wanted to accelerate this KDP process, because I was thinking, as a business owner, like I said before, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to, another thing to learn. So what I did is I took and put the process super quick, super easy. You could do it, like Amy said, in a weekend, and create these branded booklets. And I give you ideas and places to create the books for you, and all kinds of ideas, sizes of books, how to choose a book, how to pick one for your product. And I created all of that for you, and put it in a quick little course for you.
Amazing. So yeah, I'll be sharing that in the show notes. Okay. Question from a business owner perspective. We always ask, what's your piece of advice for people just getting started?
I think it's just don't be so critical on yourself. Just do it. I like I said, I wasn't a graphic designer. I just decided I'm just going to try doing these books. And what it led to was a whole nother business for me, because I started creating now branded booklets for businesses. And now I'm talking to you guys. And so my best advice is, you will not be perfect, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just take one step forward. And I think a lot of people I know I was thinking, I'm not a graphic designer. I don't have this background. I'm not an author. It does not matter, because you will get better. You will find people that will guide you, like myself. There's a lot of us, out there helping you and guiding you, but you have to just take the step. There's no one else that can do it. So that's my best advice for all my students, is just get one book done, like you did in the weekend. So
that's right. Challenge yourself to get it done. Take a step forward. Don't worry about being perfect or having it all figured out.
I think that happens a lot to us entrepreneurs. We get a little stuck in the perfection world, and yeah, we want it to look good, but you have to take one step. That's all you need to do, is one step every time. And
love it. And then what about what's keeping you motivated? So are you listening to any podcasts? Are you reading any books? Is there anything that you do to kind of keep you motivated and keep you moving forward?
Well, I love the thing that motivates me is actually sharing these ideas with people. And when I met, when I was talking to Amy, it just gets you so excited. But books, I love any kind of book. I love You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. She's one of my favorite authors. And just sort of those kind of things to read is just sort of that, how do you make the world a better place to live in and share it with everybody? So I love your podcast, Amy. I always love what you're doing. I love people that inspire others. So anything that inspires people to be their best is my favorite thing to hear or read.
Love it. All right. So I guess the last question that we have for you before we hit stop on the recording button and let other folks that are in here in the room ask their questions is, how can people get in contact with you? Of course, we're going to share our offer in the show notes, but how can people get in contact with you and connect with you?
So, I have on multiple platforms. I have a, Facebook group as well as under a YouTube's channel, all those things. But in the show notes, this is going to be where you want to click on that link, because that's going to take you right to my website. So all of this is at my website, and that's TammieChrin.com. And my name is TammieChrin.com. But it's in the show notes, I would click on that link. That'll be the best. But the website has multiple things for you to look at, and have templates and ideas and courses and all kinds of stuff for you in there, and how-tos. So just search my name and you'll find me.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Tammie, for being here. And thanks to everyone for listening today. Reach out anytime with any questions you guys have. I want to thank you on behalf of Andy and myself for voting for us in this year's seller poll. Once again, we, ranked in the top 10 podcasts that are out there. I think we were in the top 5 this year. I think we were number 4, which was amazing. Fantastic. To us. We're so happy about that. So thank you guys so much, as always, for subscribing and listening and giving us your feedback. And this is one of the best things that I do every week, is I get to meet with amazing people like Tammie, and I get to hang out with amazing, awesome entrepreneurs who are getting it done, like Carmel and Marina and Vlad, who are here in the chat with us. And, I just appreciate you all so much for being here and for listening. And we are going to hit stop on the recording here, and we'll see you guys next week on the Seller Roundtable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.